Welcome again to another episode of Sneaks, Rhymes, and Life. I am your host, Lionel McDonald. So very, very special guest with me today, all the way from the West Coast in California, my good friend Mir-Joe. Mir-Joe, what's good?
Well, it's good, my brother. I'm good, man. How's everything?
Good. I'm so glad you finally got on the podcast. I know we were doing a couple sneaker chats not too long ago, and I know once I decided to get this podcast off the ground, I know I had to have you on it. So let's get into some of the questions that I have for you today. I know we've known each other many years now. I know when we connected way back at a work meeting years ago, and we kind of hit it off from there. So I think one of the things that always is captured, you're always a super humble guy, but you have one of the most unbelievable sneaker collections that I've ever laid my eyes on. So maybe you could tell us, how did you get started collecting sneakers?
So it started off for me, 1988, 89. I used to live in Chicago. MJ won the slam dunk. I was fortunate enough to go attend that. A family friend of mine had some access to tickets, saw him play. My brother, before the game, before the All-Star game, had gifted me a pair of AJ2 for my birthday. And I had no idea before that who Jordan was. I didn't like the shoe, to be honest with you. Back then, all the kids were wearing Adidas Phantom or Flight 89. So I'm like, yo, I'm not, a fan of the shoes. So I went to the Foot Locker and traded those, exchanged them. And they were looking at me like, are you crazy? Like, you want to trade these? Like, everybody wants them. I'm like, yeah, I don't like them. So I ended up getting some Adidas and LA Gear. And paid the difference. And once I saw MJ won the slam dunk, I really wanted Retro 3, and I had no idea who Jordan was until that point. And it's crazy, living in Chicago, not knowing who MJ was till 88, 89. That seems kind of unreasonable, but I was more into boxing at that time. So once I saw a man literally flying, doing the dunk, I just became a big fan of him. And I just tell my brother, like, hey, I need these retro threes like this Jordans. Back then, they were not even called retro. So Air Jordan 3, and so well, you're going to have to wait. They don't just come out every time. There's a special release for them. When we get them, I'll look out for you. So the following year, he gifted me a pair of those for my birthday. And so technically, my first shoe was Air Jordan 2, but the 3 started off my collection.
Unbelievable. So, and I know many people don't love the Jordan 2, but I think it's one of the most underrated shoes in the entire Jordan collection. So which is the color of the Jordan 3 that you got?
Oh, the white gray.
White gray.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. You're right. Like, a lot of people didn't appreciate the 2. Neither did I until further down the line. I think in the mid 90s, my brother kind of schooled me. He said, those shoes that I gave you to return them, those are made in Italy. They're made in like iguana leather. And once I saw the quality, I'm like, man, I was an idiot. I had no one to tell me what did I give away. Believe me, I went back to the store a couple of days later to see if they still have it. They're like, nope, it was gone in the next minute.
Yeah. Wow. Unbelievable. So what would you say, I know you can see that for those who are watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Appreciate everyone that's following. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see in the background, Mir-Joe's got a Jordan jersey in a frame. So what would you say, and obviously you mentioned your story from Chicago, but what would you say is your favorite or some of your favorite pairs of Air Jordan, as we know you're a big fan?
So, like I said, I started off in 88, 89 collecting, until I moved to California, in mid 90s. It started off, what triggered me is a Retro 5. What happened was in 1991 or 92, I was in Asia. I stopped over a flight in Japan. I had the Retro 5 black metallic silver on my feet. And believe me or not, like where the gate is for the plane, airport people were coming in and taking pictures of my shoes because they had never seen Air Jordan 5 in Japan. And I didn't understand the magnitude until that point. Like, people coming over, like I was a celebrity. They're like, hey, can I take a picture with you with the shoes? Can I take a picture of the shoes? I'm like, sure. And I'm like, these are just Air Jordan, but like, what a, crazy epic moment for me, to travel there. And then when I got back home, it just hit me like, man, this guy is like, if people are willing to take a picture of his shoes and bombard me at the airport in Japan, out of all places, like, what does this guy mean to the world, and what does the shoe mean to the world? And when I came back, it really hit me. I said, you know what? From now on, I'm gonna just save every Jordan. So up till that, like when I rocked the 3s and 4s, I just gave it to my cousins and stuff after I was done with it. But after the 5th, I just kept every one of them. So in reality, 5 is a very sentimental value for me for that point. And that same year, my mother passed away. So that was the last shoe she saw me wearing. I used to wear that shoe to the hospital to go see her. She was in a coma. And that shoe just has a lot of memories for me. It was also my very first shoe I bought with my own money. When I started working and I earned some money, that was the very first shoe I bought for my own money. So that shoe was very near and dear to my heart.
It's an iconic one, and I think to hear your story and how sentimental it was, I totally get it why that is. That's one. So if we move forward and thinking about the 5 and some of the things that have come out this year. So what have been the latest cops? Like, what are you wearing today, and what have you most recently bought?
So today, just to match my Fear of God orange hat, I got some Shannon Backboard low, white orange lows. Just to
the
keep
women's one, you got them. All right, that's dope.
Yeah. Before that, my last 3 cob will be the pollen ones. I got the prototype ones and the Travis Scott fragment lows. That was like,
wow,
one of the best ones of the year. So I had to have that one.
Yeah, you're not messing around, man. You're getting some of those big heat shoes. So those are some good ones. I think, what did I wear today? I ran my daughter down to the schoolyard. I think I was wearing yesterday was wearing Reebok Question white and red toe, because it's the 25th anniversary of when Iverson kind of hit the court in those shoes. And then I think today I was wearing a pair of Dunks, I think some black and blue Dunks. So
nice.
So yeah, I like to diversify and play with a bunch of different things. So so I know you mentioned MJ, but we also, word on the street is you are a really big Kobe fan. So, I know you talked about, Vegas and obviously being in California, but how did this, I guess, passion or, admiration of Kobe kind of start for you?
So I think, after '89, I just started collecting everything Jordan. From like BDs, basketball memorabilia, every magazine he was on the cover, everything. I was like going to all his games whenever he played in Chicago, out in LA, all the way till he retired. I followed the man till the last game in Utah. I was there, at the Delta Center when he hit the last shot. And after that, I was sad, to be honest with you, because I felt like his era in the mid 90s helped me get over my sadness of losing my parents at a young age. Back then we didn't have mental health issues, but you still deal with it. And Jordan was my way of overcoming sadness. He allowed me to channel, whatever I had personally going on just by watching him play, collecting his stuff. It kept me busy. It kept me off street, believe it or not. This is in the early 90s in Chicago. Gangs and drugs was like really, really big. And I give a lot of credit to MJ for keeping me off street, because, I was so busy collecting stuff and watching him play and things like that. I felt like an end of era. I was really sad in 98, and the 2 years gap from 99 2000 NBA was boring, quite honestly. And I just felt like, man, there's like, what's next? Like, just like 10 years of my life, just like I was enjoying so much. Like, what do I do now? Like, and then came Kobe Bryant in Los Angeles, and I wasn't a big fan of Kobe, to be honest with you, from day one. I was just like, okay, here's another guy trying to be like MJ. There's Harry Miner, there's all these other guys, everybody's
Grant
calling
Hill.
Jordan, Grant Hill, Stoudemire, what's his name, Stackhouse from North Carolina. Everyone was named the next Jordan, but nobody became one. So, I felt like Kobe was along those lines. But crazy thing happened to me is because I lived in Chicago early 90s and I saw what Jordan did to the city, how he changed the culture of basketball, sneaker game, everything. I started seeing the same similarities in Kobe in Los Angeles. I was blessed to live in LA after, moving from Chicago, and I saw similar things happening in LA, what was happening in Chicago with MJ in the early 90s. And I was like, oh, maybe this guy is something. Like, he was doing a Sprite commercial. He's in the rap videos. He's out in malls. I worked at a store, a Foot Locker store, South Coast. He happened to come in with Vanessa one day. This is when they were dating, and he was super chill, down to earth. This is when we had the Adidas shoe. He disguised. He had a hat on and glasses. Came with his girlfriend at that time, Vanessa, just to see how the shoe was. He was curious. He walked in, and he was just like, "Yo, man, you guys got the new Adidas Kobe?" Other associates are telling him like, "Yeah, we got it. What size you need?" And I'm like, "I think that's Kobe Bryant." Like, I could see like he has. I swear, like that's him. So I walked up, talked to him, and he took off his glasses, super down to earth, and that day made me realize, like, if this guy is really genuine, down to earth like that, I should start watching his games. And I slowly started watching some of his games. And he lived in Orange County, so he shopped at that store quite often. He used to come maybe every 2-3 months with his wife, when he got married, and start bringing his daughter. So I just became a big fan of him, and I saw how he was able to change Los Angeles entire culture and everything, similar to what Jordan did. And I just became a fan of him. And, especially when he started, changing the shoe game with Nike. Once he was done with Adidas, he started rocking everything, because he was a free agent. He was wearing Reebok Question, he was wearing Jordans, everything. And then he signed with Nike. And then, I used to see a lot of him in the stores, and, he just became like this guy that in some way for me, it gave me an idea of how Jordan would have. It's almost like an extension of Michael Jordan in a modern era, because we didn't have social media back in MJ's era, but we had it in Kobe's era. He used different platform, but he had the same mentality, same work ethic, and he was doing legendary things that you only saw MJ doing. So it was like watching the next MJ, without labeling him that.
Yeah, I feel you. Like his work ethic, and I call it I would say he would, if you want to say that there was a modern day icon, I wouldn't say that he's the modern day Jordan, because I think there's only one Jordan, but the modern day icon, beyond, call it the bridge between what we see now with LeBron, as LeBron is winding down. It was definitely Kobe, and the work ethic, the competitive nature, really something to see. So so interesting. You mentioned Kobe, and you said you met Kobe.
Yes.
How many times did you meet him? Just the one time in the store? Because you said
met him about 22 times. Met him twice.
Okay. So I'm going to backtrack for a second, because I know we got off the Jordan train to talk about Kobe, but you meet Jordan?
Yes. Yeah, met him 5 times. So very blessed.
Are you kidding me? 5 times?
Yep. Yeah, 2 of them are right there.
Gosh.
Yep, that's twice. Yeah, so it's crazy. I met him out of all dates. You won't believe it. I met him on my 23rd birthday. Out of all numbers, it was my 23rd birthday. What happened is basically he was doing a fundraising dinner for his dad. His dad had just passed away, James Jordan, and he was doing a James Jordan gala with the Chicago Boys and Girls Club. So I used to be a member of Boys and Girls Club in Chicago, but I had moved out here to Los Angeles. And once I found out that he was doing this fundraising dinner, I wanted to get in. And it was invite only. And I contacted Chicago Boys and Girls Club. They're like, "No, I'm sorry, all invites are done." Everyone, like whoever got the invite, that's it. It was a limited, quantity. So then I hit up my friend I had just met at that time, maybe a year, into it, Gentry Humphrey, who used to work for Brand Jordan for a long time.
Yeah.
And he was a product line sales manager at that time with Nike. And he pulled some strings. This guy named Nick, who was there, he was able to get me an invite. So I wore a tuxedo, rented a MJ tuxedo. Those who don't know, MJ used to have a line of tuxedo back then.
You went all out. Wow.
I went all out, flew to Chicago. MJ was there with his then wife, Juanita, at the door. And I walked in Lionel. I had goosebumps and I freezed up. I couldn't say a word. And his wife was welcoming. She's like, "Hey, how you doing?" The guards were checking up the invite and let me in. I walk in and sit down. You have seated place. Boyz II Men opened up. Boyz II Men was singing the national anthem. They opened up. So I'm just this like utter disbelief. Like, huh? Like, am I really here at this place? Dinner was served. After dinner, they had a silent auction where funds were going to James Jordan Gala. So this is where I bought that jersey from. I bought this jersey back then. It's actually a 1993 playoff jersey signed by MJ and basketball. So believe it or not, this is before he came back. This is before he announced coming back. So at that time, price wasn't that high. Average items at the auction was going anywhere from $500 to $2,000, which is nothing, what the value was of MJ once he announced he was coming back. But long story short, at the end of the evening, before the guests were leaving, I walked up to his bodyguard and said, "Hey, can I get a picture with MJ?" This guy said, "No. He's not taking personal pictures. He could only take it from a distance, And I was like, "Please, man." He said, "No." I said, "It's my 23rd birthday." And the guy said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "No." It's like, "You have some ID?" I said, "Yeah." So I pulled out my California driver's license, showed it to him. He said, "Hold up." He walked up to MJ and he goes, "Hey, man, this guy from LA came all the way out here. He says it's your big fan. It's his 23rd birthday." And Mike said, "All right, bring him over here." So he comes up, I go over there and I like literally had so much goosebumps. I couldn't believe it was a dream come true. So he's shaking my hand. He's like, "How you doing, man? Thanks for coming in from Los Angeles. How come you're not a Lakers fan?" That's the question he asked me. And I was not able to answer him. I was just like looking at him for like 5 minutes. I'm like, "You okay, man?" He asked me, like, "You okay?" I said, yeah, I'm okay. And his wife was there, Juanita, back then, she was like, "It's okay, and I'm like, "Yeah, thank you." I said, "Yeah, it's my birthday." He's like, "Well, happy birthday, man. You enjoyed it?" I said, "Yeah, I'm originally from Chicago. I just live in LA now." So he was really genuine and he took a picture with me. That's the picture right there.
Amazing.
Yep.
Amazing.
So, that was the first time I met him. Then second time I met him, he actually came to my store. I used to work at Foot Locker in Beverly Center in 2000. MJ came out here and, he was in the store for like maybe an hour and just spent some time. But, he was really genuinely down to earth, just like, to me, it was just a dream come true. I couldn't tell, a better story. People don't believe me sometimes. And luckily I have pictures and people do, be the proof.
Yeah. Oh, people always want proof. It's like, "What? You met MJ 20 years ago at work?" Nah. Show me the picture. And then you pull the picture out and it's like, hot damn, you were not lying. So pretty dope. So that to say that you met him not once, but twice, and you met Kobe 5 times is like borderline mind blowing. So
yeah, no, I was
good on you, man. The humble ones get what they deserve. So good on you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So let's talk some sneakers. So, and I know I kind of gave you a few shoes to give me your favorite. Well, but since we just kind of were talking about both MJ and Kobe, let's start with Kobe. What would be your favorite Kobe overall? Like, is there one that stands out in your mind?
I think the Zoom Kobe one, definitely, because it was his first Nike shoes. Signature, him scoring 81 points in it. That's a huge.
Yeah, lit up the Raptors.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that.
My hometown Raptors. Although I'm a Knicks fan, everyone knows I am a Knicks fan.
Yep. But no, Zoom Kobe one. I was a signed fan from him, so that's definitely one of my favorite ones.
Okay, all right. So you mentioned obviously Jordan 5, and you noticed that was the next one on the list because I think I've heard remnants of this story before about you going to Asia and wearing your Jordan 5s, and everyone was like just geeking on you. So which is your favorite? Is it the metallic or is there another one?
No, for the 5, it's definitely the metallic. I would say, people always ask me, what is your favorite? And it's hard. It's like shoes are like kids to me. It's like you can't have one favorite. And to me, it's like I have 3 kids. So I'm like, I can't pick one.
Yeah.
So, since I have 3 kids, I would say my top 3 J's of all time is the 5s, the 11s, and the 1. The 5, because of what I just told you, my, personal sentimental value. 11s because what Jordan accomplished in it. Like in 95, 96, people doubted him that, oh, he's older, he lost a step, he should have just not come back. You know, he will never get a championship. For him to wear, that's the only shoe he wore 2 years in a row, back to back. Every year he switched shoes, but that particular 95, 96 season, he wore the same shoes. And, you know, that's when I met him too. So it was just more, you know, one of my favorite shoes. And I think the shoe was ahead of its time. You've never seen patent leather, carbon fiber on the sole until then. And, you know, Jordan was always ahead of the time because you look at the design aspects from fighter jets to, you know, patent leather to Ferrari, like no one else does that. And I think 11, I have about 75 pairs of 11s.
Wow.
Yeah. And
do you have a favorite?
Yeah, the Concord is definitely my favorite.
Concord. Yeah. I'm a Bread guy because Bread is my favorite. Concord is a close second. But I love the Concord not because MJ wore it. And I saw MJ play, like the one game he played in the Sky Dome, and they actually lost in that 72-10 season. But I love the shoe because Allen Iverson wore it. And that was kind of the birth of the question because he loved the shoe so much. So okay, no, I would definitely say close second is the Concord. It's just how it looks. It's unbelievable. So tell me about your ones, though. You said ones would be your top three. Which one is the one that sticks out for you?
I think the Chicago color, home colorway, you know, I know J. Cole rocks it all the time. He's got a dirty pair, you know, that he loves to wear all the time. But Chicago color is definitely one of my favorite. I think that's the shoe that I have the most, just because it's a good fit. It goes with everything. So many different collabs. You know, I love that shoe. I think that's probably the only shoe that they did more collabs on than any of the models. You know, from Levi's to J Balvin to, you know, No Photos, like you know, Travis. So many different ones. So yeah, I love that shoe. I think that one I have 134 pairs of retro ones.
No surprise because they just keep pumping them out. But I think I'm going to say an early prediction. I heard Unbreakable Kicks talk about not too long ago. I think this Jordan 1 phenomenon is going to slow down. I wouldn't say it's going to come to an end. I think he actually said it's going to come to an end, but I think it's going to slow down and we're going to pivot for a period of time, kind of put it back in the vault somewhat and start to play with some other shoes. And then it will come back like out in 18 months to 2 years. That's just a prediction of mine. I know that the market is just so saturated with that shoe, but I think in due time it's gonna disappear and then reappear.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's one of the ways to appreciate the shoe, because if you have it all the time in front of your face, you may not appreciate it because you could just grab it and you know, get a pair. But if it's gone, you intend to appreciate it more. And when it comes back, it'll even be, you know,
more valuable.
Yep.
You got it. So let's talk about a couple other iconic silhouettes or, you know, players that had their own shoes. So what about Barkley? You got a favorite Barkley?
Yeah, you know, the shoe that I love of Barkley the most is the 180 Air Max CB. The very first one that he wore, black with the red Air Max. It was just nubuck. It was the first shoe that I saw, like all black nubuck. It was just something about the shoe. I just loved it, like just the way it looked. And I know this was right after his transition from 76ers to Phoenix. You know, and he was the guy, right? Like that everybody said, like he's gonna be the one that's gonna give MJ, you know, run for his money. So to have that shoe was definitely one of my favorite. I think another one of my favorite would be Penny Hardaway. You know, the Air Penny 1, black white royal. I'm excited about the white one. I heard they're gonna bring back the white one soon, so I can't wait. It hasn't been retro since
2022
the original launch, so I'm excited about that. Yeah, I'm excited about that. And many people don't know that aside from his own signature shoe, MJ wore the Air Flight 1 that Penny wore on the game that he had lost his jersey and shoes. He wore those. So I remember, like, it was lightweight, high performance basketball shoes back then.
Yeah, that's still one of the crazy Jordan phenomenon when he got his jersey and shoes stolen. So he ended up wearing a different number. What was it, 12 that game?
Well, yeah, 12 with no name.
And no name. And then he wore a pair of pennies. So really excited for that penny one. I have a couple pairs, or already, but looking forward to the market, showing Penny some love. I got a good friend, Ashley, that is a diehard Penny fan, and he will be super excited to see those back on the market. So your home base now is LA.
Yep.
I know you were, obviously excited for the two championships that Kobe was able to win after him and Shaq kind of broke up. And then, the Lakers won in the bubble. So what are your thoughts on this year's Lakers team? I know it's a lot different. We got LeBron at the end of his career. AD for now is healthy. Russell Westbrook has joined the team, and good old Carmelo Anthony is also a Laker as well, who's now number 9 all time in the NBA scoring after he passed Moses Malone earlier this week. So what are your thoughts on the outlook for the Lakers this year?
I think first off, I'm definitely excited to see Russell and Melo join the Lakers. I think it's a good fit. Russell being from LA, born and raised in LA, he's homecoming for him. He's a big icon in LA. He does a lot for the community. And then Melo has been a big Jordan guy. Team Jordan since day one. He goes back for Eddie Jones. As a matter of fact, I have a pair of Melo 1.5 signed by him from Vegas at exhibition games. So I'm a big fan of Melo. Met him at an all-star game in 2011 out here in Los Angeles. So I'm just excited to see, both of them come play with the Lakers. I think this year is still going to be tough for them to win a championship. I think the chemistry is quite not there today. I think it's going to take a year to build that chemistry on and off the court both. And I think, I could definitely see them a championship caliber team in, 2022 and 2023. I think those 2 years, I could definitely say that Lakers, be safe to say that Lakers will take the championship then.
Yeah, it just will be, will they be healthy enough to win, right? You can see it already that, they're having their challenges kind of fitting all together, and maybe they need the whole season. I know we're judging a season like 5 games in some cases, right? So it's going to take a little time. The Bulls look really good. Knicks are 3-1. Go Knicks. Charlotte looks really good with LaMelo Ball. You saw, obviously that we still have Utah as a really good team. They'll be back in the thick of it. I'm sure Phoenix will make a run after their finals run. No one is saying that Brooklyn is going away, and we know that the champs aren't going away either. They got their whole team back, so it should be a very, very interesting season overall.
I can't wait for the Lakers to stay healthy. I think that's the key, right? With having a veteran, experienced team on and off the bench, it's everyone's eyes are on the Lakers, a high expectation, but I think the chemistry is quite not there. And it's been crazy, let's face it, like with the pandemic, there hasn't been a regular season for the last 2 years. So, the timing that the players have on and off season to build that bond hasn't been there. So not an excuse, but I think it's just going to take some time. I don't think they're going to be able to do it this year, but I think coming off season, working off season together as players, building that chemistry, I think next year they have a good chance. What I'm excited about is I'm pretty sure you could test to that 2 years ago, Toronto went through that. When you have a championship team, the city just goes through like haywire bananas with you had Kawhi, you had Drake, you had so much going on in Toronto. Same thing, like when Kobe and Shaq played, it was just like they were at clubs, at Century clubs. You got Magic Johnson up in the mix, radio stations giving out ticket, merchandise is selling. It's just a different environment, and I just can't wait for that to come back again. I think LA City needs that, because after losing a big icon like Kobe, Nipsey Hussle, for Russell to play in LA and hopefully win a championship, it would mean a lot to the city.
It's a big deal. Big deal. So as we kind of wrap up on call it the sneaker and sports section, the fans of this podcast love a good sneaker story. So could you tell us maybe one that you went on a hunt to get a shoe, or just another, you've met so many, call it sneaker or cultural icons. We'd love to hear a story, Mir-Joe. Give us one.
Absolutely. So I got, a hunt that almost got me killed.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So in 1997, I believe it was uh, spring. You remember that was one of the only few times Brand Jordan dropped two colors in one day. It was the white cherry and blue. They came out the same day.
Yep.
And the retro 12. Well, back then it was just the 12. So I happened to be in Chicago. And those who ever been to Chicago, there's some big key malls that used to be the Jordan Mall. Like these are the Foot Lockers back in the days, were the destination to get Jordan, and they would get hundreds of thousands of pair. Back then it was Brickyard Mall, Fort City, Evergreen Plaza. These were like big malls where everybody would travel from all different states to go. So I happened to be at Fort City, but I made a mistake. I knew Humphrey Gentry from Brand Jordan was kind enough to give me some samples that they were doing with Jordan. So Tinker had worked on multiple colors of the 12. So I happened to have my hands on a sample pair of black, white, the playoff shoe that he wore in playoffs. I had an early sample of that way before anybody else did. It was a size 9. I happened to have them on my feed like a dumb kid. I wanted to show off. So I wore those shoes to go buy a pair of shoes from Foot Locker in Fort City. And I was trying to go stand in line. So I go in the line, there's about 200 people. And at first, people didn't realize what I had on my feet. They were just talking, everybody's standing in line. And I'm like towards the back of the line. And my brother-in-law took me there. I didn't have a car. He lived in Chicago. So, he was a resident he was doing residency at a hospital nearby. So he was with me, and, he has no idea about shoe culture or shoe release or anything. So he's with me, just chilling. And next thing he noticed that people just started coming up to me, asking me about my shoes. They're like, yo, are those fakes? I said, no, they're not fake. They're like, are they custom? I said, no, they're not custom. Like, back then custom wasn't even a big thing, but like people were like, how did you get this? Like, is that a real pair? Most people thought it was fake. I said, no, these are not fakes. And I, bragging rights. I was like, yeah, these are from Brand Jordan, man. They don't come out till May, and people were like, what? Like, you got a pair that's not even out? So, word got around on the line, and next thing you know, 40, 50 people just walked up to me. They're like, what size are those? And to one point, somebody yelled at, let's get him for these shoes. So my brother-in-law was like super scared. He's like, yo, man, I don't want any part of this. Your safety is more important than these pairs of shoes. If these guys want the shoes, give them the shoes. I'm like, hell no, I'm not giving them the shoes. These are one of a kind. He's like, well, you can't stand here because these people are looking at you. They're about to kill you for these pairs of shoes. So like, next thing you know, it was a mob of maybe 80 people at this point just looking at my shoes, and security came in, and they said, hey, you're a threat. Like, you can't stand here. This is a safety concern. We don't know what could happen. People, get shot for these kind of shoes. So not have you stand in here. We need you to leave. So they escorted me out to my car. I ended up getting those shoes later on, but long story short, that particular day I wasn't able to cop it because it was a security concern.
Damn. Chicago is a beautiful place, yet a scary place at the same time. So
yeah,
good thing that you got out of there nice and safe. So wow, that's a story for story. I mean, one of the craziest stories we've ever had on this podcast. So again, thanks for sharing, and I'm totally glad that you're safe. So got to be careful when you wear those early drops. Yeah. So.
No, I think after that, I realized that, man, never again like that. Yeah. I literally thought that, I was young, dumb. So I was like, let me show off a different color that nobody has. But after, putting my life in danger, just getting home safe, I was like, my brother-in-law told me that day, like, hey, promise me you're never going to do anything crazy like that. Like, it's not worth, I say, yeah, you're right,
All right. So as we continue, let's talk a little hip hop before we get out of here. So we know you're a big fan. I can kind of see there's a plaque in the back, Black on Both Sides. One of my favorite albums. It's like one of my wife's favorite albums. So who are some of your favorite artists? And maybe you can share a little bit. How the heck did you get that plaque? It's from Raucous Records.
Yeah. So I will start off with hip hop. I think my top 5 MCs. This is my personal top 5. I know everyone has different opinions because I lived in different parts of US at some point, growing up in the Midwest, living in New York, and now in LA. To me, my top 5 would be Tupac, Biggie, Jay-Z, Rakim, and Nas and Mos, split. Because I think Nas, what he did to hip hop, Mos just because I happen to personally know him, be good family friends. But those are my top five, MCs of all time. I think you were asking me how did I get this plaque. So in 1999, Mos came out on the scene, started doing a lot of music. Like he was already underground, doing a lot of stuff, with Medina Green, Universal. Him and Quali were good friends. So he was doing a lot of stuff with Tribe, De La Soul, but he had not come out to West Coast that much. So 1999, he came out to the West Coast. His dad happens to be a very good friend of my uncle, and we're family friends. So, he came out here, and Mos doesn't drive. A lot of people don't know Mos doesn't drive. When you live in New York, you don't need to drive. You could take a train and bus, go anywhere. So, his dad had asked me like, hey, can you, help us out? We're trying to go to the studios, things like that. I said, yeah, not a problem. Like, just not that they needed me, but just it was more of a trusting. They wanted to have someone trustworthy around him. I was able to work it out and help him out and stuff. And then when he was working on this album, Black on Both Sides, I happened to be there in the studio with him a lot, like took him to the studios in LA on Sunset. Yeah. Seeing him record, so many songs, Water, Mathematic, Omi Says, like so much stuff he was doing. I was able to be in the studio and just have a different appreciation for art. Met Quali, Talib Kweli there, and so many more people. But what I liked about Mos and the whole raucous era was it was a different type of rap. It was conscious rap, like Common, all these guys. They weren't talking about, money and bling bling things. It was more cautious, like what was going on in the world, what was going on in, United States, what's going on with the youth. I think that was like the foundation of youth culture, if you will, in hip hop, because we all know like it started off with Bronx, with, KRS-One and all these other people, so many to name. But I think that rap took a different turn. I think Raucous, a lot of people don't give the credit. The amount of artists they put out at that time was just phenomenal. But yeah, because I helped them out, contributed, with the album, when the album went, gold, platinum, they were able to give out some plaques to appreciate friends and family. So I ended up getting one.
That's unbelievable. So like you just said so much that the listeners didn't get. I know you've briefed me on some stuff, but hold on, wait. You met Quali too. You were in the studio when he was recording the album, and then on top of like to physically see that you have, I can't tell from here whether it's a gold or a platinum plaque, but to have a plaque because of that album is unbelievable. So
yeah, this is a half a million copies, so it's gold.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was I'm very blessed. At that time, I don't think I appreciated as much as I did later on, but I went on tour with him multiple times. I was on a part of the tour when they were MTV was doing Lyrics' Lounge, with Common, Quali, De La Soul, a bunch of people. I went on tour with Black Star. Him and Quali both went on tour. I didn't join the East Coast one, other than New York. But West Coast, I traveled with him multiple times. Met so many great people in the industry. One of my funny story, people don't believe me. I met Kanye before he was Kanye West. This is in New York at the Sony Studios. Mos was late. His government name's Dante. So people, would call him, he had so many nicknames, Flacco, D, Dante, but he was running late. So it was just me, Talib Kweli. I don't know if you've heard of a producer, 88 Keys.
Yeah.
So 88 was with Kanye. Kanye was,
that's Kanye's guy.
Kanye's guy. So Kanye had back in the days, they used to call it DAT, the digital audio tape.
Yeah.
So he made some beats. He wanted most to listen to that. So, most of the artists run late. So he's just shooting pool. There's a Pac-Man game. Everybody just standing there. Kanye sees me wearing some J's. I had Retro Ones back then. Like nobody rocked Retro Ones and Air Force One unless you're in the East Coast or Midwest. West Coast, non-existent at that time. So I was wearing those, and he was all like, "Hey man, nice shoes." I said, "Yeah, thanks." And he's all like, where you from? And I told him, oh, I'm from LA. He's like, oh yeah, I'm from Chicago. I said, I'm originally from Chicago. Started talking to him. But it's crazy. Like, he was so humble, and he was telling me like how, he was making beats and, producing stuff. I had no idea who he was at that time. Literally like 2 years later, I'm like, hearing Through the Wire and all these songs. And I'm like, yeah, that's the guy bad. Like, Jesus, like this is crazy.
Yeah, he was so hungry at that time, but humble at the same time. He was just trying to get on. He's just trying to get on. Like, there's thousands upon thousands of other rappers trying to get on, and I still see like the old videos of the old Kanye, which I love so dearly. Yeah, it's a pretty amazing experience that you got a chance to meet him in the studio, right? And yeah, you think of Lyricist Lounge and Raucous Records, those are some of the, when we talk about the golden era of hip hop, that era and that kind of almost time capsule doesn't get enough love. There's the underground heads that love it to this day, but doesn't get talked about like this era or the golden era. So, really appreciate you sharing that, Mir-Joe. That's pretty dope. So, you kind of mentioned, KRS-One earlier. So did you get a chance to catch the verses that happened with him and Big Daddy Kane?
Yeah, I saw the highlights. I didn't catch the entire show, but I did see the highlights. When I got home that night, and yeah, it was pretty crazy. I think when you have an icon like KRS-One, don't get me wrong, Big Daddy Kane's an icon as well in hip hop, but KRS-One, he's one of the founding fathers of hip hop. South Bronx, BDP, Boogie Down Production. Like, one of my favorite KRS track is. What's that one called? What's the name of that song? Step Into the World.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite ones. I love his line where he's like, I said number one, I lied. I'm number 1, 2, 3, 4,
and 5. Yeah, that's a dope one. So yeah, he's clever with his words, and I think you talk about icon. Like, he's got 26 albums. And you may not have listened to them all, but he's been putting out albums since like 1987, and like it's almost like an album every year. He's unbelievable. So you watch verses often?
Yeah, the best one. I watched the KRS one, just the highlights, but the one that I really watched, I had time, and I really really enjoyed it was. I watched the DMX and Snoop, but the one I really enjoyed it. That was classic, and I'm so glad that the community did that at that time, because there's no telling, when you have, and I'm sorry to jump ship, but when you're appreciating an artist like DMX, kind of, give him the flowers at the world stage, give him that platform. Who knew that he was not going to be with us anymore?
I know.
You look at Kobe Bryant, like his 2016 farewell tour was the best in the NBA. Like, where else can you get a tour where he got a standing ovation in every stadium in NBA?
Yeah.
And retire both jerseys, and then to find out that 2020, within 4 years, we lost this icon. And I think it's good that we do that. Not to jump ship back to hip hop, but the one I enjoyed the most was the recent one with the Locks and Dipset. It was like,
that people are still buzzing about that one. Like, it's like Jadakiss just made himself a new career out of just that verses. So that was a totally dope.
Like, I'm not surprised though, because if people didn't know, like, Jadakiss is, in my opinion, one of the top 12 MCs of all time. Like, this guy could spit. Like, when he came out and he just like started spitting, and the background, Who Shot Ya, Biggie's beat just came out. It was just like a whole different, like, it really like, validated hip hop. And it was just like, yeah, this is true hip hop. Like, stop wasting time. Like, this is, like, just the way. I mean, I wasn't surprised, because I know he's a good MC. So, but he's also a big sneakerhead, big Jordan.
Really, really big sneakerhead. I remember meeting him way back in the day. Sure, of course, he wanted white Air Force Ones, but he was looking for anything to say, what are all the limited edition? What are the ones that, there's very little of? That's what he was interested in. So yeah, he's been a sneaker guy for forever. So
yeah, no, I remember meeting him in 2018 and 19. He came out to LA when we opened up the Jump Band. He came out and shot there. So it was definitely a humble guy. Like, he came in with house slippers. He had house slippers on, tank top. He came in and got some, I think it was the Retro 11 drop, they had just came out, the Space Jam, and he came a couple pair of those.
Yeah. All right. So hey, just in my last question as we wrap up. So what would you say, you essentially, you spend a lot of time, obviously, you grew up in Chicago, there's some time in Vegas, but you spent the most of your life now in LA, you mentioned Tupac being in your top five. What was, like, from your point of view and you living in the West Coast, what was the East Coast West Coast feud look like? What did it look like from your perspective, as you didn't grow up in the East Coast? I gravitated myself a lot to East Coast music, Nas, Wu-Tang, Biggie, Jay-Z, et cetera, but from a different perspective, grew up in the Midwest and then obviously the West Coast. What was it like from a West Sider's perspective?
I think, it was more what the media and everybody made it seem, whether it was radio or back then magazine, because there was no social media back then, than actual artists. To be honest with you, like, I was personally involved in many different events where I've seen artists really appreciate each other from East Coast to West Coast. And I quite didn't understand, like, where was the beef coming from? Like, when Mos did the song everyone knows, Oh No, with Nate Dogg, rest in peace. Like, that's a collab nobody would think of. And it was like Mos, Quali, Fairmont hanging out with like Nate, Snoop, DJ Quick. DJ Quick worked on the album with Quali. So it's like nobody thinks of these, but when these guys are hanging out, they really embrace each other and appreciate each other. There was no beef. I think it was just certain, people that had it. But I think as the industry lost the two biggest icon, Biggie and Pac, I think it made everybody realize, like, this is not worth it. Like, we need to back off and just start appreciating each other, and like, the artists themselves always had that. Like, I've seen, Ali Shaheed Muhammad and Q-Tip come out to the West Coast, and they embrace, like, West Coast rappers all the time, meet up with them, like, go, shoot pool, break bread. So it's nothing for them. Like, that's a common thing. They don't look at it as like, oh, we're in the West Coast. They just look at it as like, we're out here, let's meet up with friends. So I think it was more of what the music industry outsiders what made it about beef. But to be honest with you, I didn't see that from an artist point of view. Being so close to Mos and other artists, I never saw that.
It's crazy how that spun out of control, and there's all the rumors and the conspiracy theorists on how it all went down and who's responsible. But it's sad that we lost those two, but it could be, it could have been gotten way worse. Like, if it just never got squashed, right? Could you imagine in a world now that, could we have lost Snoop? Could we have lost Dre? Could we have lost Nas? Could we have lost, like, there's so many other people that it could have spiraled so badly out of control. And I think, the media had a big piece to do with it. But we lost two of the best, and again, we never really got to see them, their full potential. There's so many of the big artists that are out there that we never heard from, and really got all their best, and seen them at their peak, right? We saw some great times, but maybe never their peak. So, anyways, Mir-Joe, that's it for the podcast. I really appreciate you sharing so many amazing things you have going on. And just your life experiences are unbelievable, but appreciate your time, brother. Always good to have you on and be able to connect with you. But again, that's it from this episode of Sneaks, Rhymes, and Life. Just before we go, Mir-Joe, how do people find you on social media if they wanted to check out your Instagram page?
So I'm on IG. It's Mr. 23, so it's MRTWO3. I should be able to see a picture of me up there. But no, I just wanted to thank you, man. My closing comment, I would just say this. I think with this pandemic, we all learned that nothing's guaranteed in life. And with losing an icon like Kobe, it made us all realize that the biggest mistake we always think is we have time, and we don't know how much time we have. But, we should just appreciate what we have, because that's what we wanted a few years ago. We prayed for it. Now we have it. So we just got to appreciate it. And, on that note, I want to just appreciate you giving me the opportunity platform to, share my passion story. So thank you.
Thank you again. Appreciate the kind words. Always good to connect. So thank you, listeners, for listening. This is another episode of Sneaks, Rhymes, and Life. This one with Mir-Joe and his unbelievable Kobe and Jordan and sneaker stories. So again, thanks everyone for listening. We'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.
Peace.